All right, Jim. So Xiaomi, the huge Chinese phone OEM, announced new technology. I don't know if it's new, but they announced a technology called the Mi Air Charge. And what this is supposed to be is a way of charging multiple devices, including phones, over distances of multiple feet. And to me, I feel like I've heard this story a few times before. I would say at best, this sounds like another Energis or Osea or PowerCast application. But how do you read this? What's really going on here? Did Xiaomi do? Xiaomi's a great company. Are they doing something really innovative or what's going on?
Well, it's a little hard to say. It's a bit of an oddball announcement, to be frank, because first question is why now? We had CES a couple of weeks ago. Why wouldn't you have rolled it out there? But they really didn't do it as a product announcement. It was just something that was done in one of their blog posts, and it was picked up fairly widely because Xiaomi is a big company. It is, and they do a lot of leading edge stuff. So what
Yes,
they
an
announced,
an R&D announcement versus a product announcement.
yeah.
Kind of odd.
And so what they announced was a millimeter wave RF at a distance wireless power transfer. So kind of one of what's always been sort of the desired promise is transferring energy over the air at long distances. So they're basically saying, hey, we've got something that can do it across the room. Millimeter wave typically is in the 30 gigahertz and above, so that's very high frequencies. You don't see a whole lot of stuff up there. Cellular is starting to move in that direction with 5G. And so they've made a promise to do, or they've talked about doing this phased array antenna. They have a transmitter that looks like an end table that sits in the room and is able to kind of look around and spot where a potential phone is, and with a highly directional antenna, transmit energy, meters across the room to the device and charge it. They say they've got 144 antennas in the transmit device, 14 antennas in the receive device.
A little big and a little expensive.
It sounds very expensive, very big. And one of the biggest problems with RF at a distance is for electrical engineers or radio engineers, known as the Fries equation or Fry's equation, which basically says every time you double the distance, the amount of power received goes down by a factor of 4. And so they have to fight that to actually do 5 watts across the room. They may have to be in the hundreds or thousands of watts of effective power coming out of this thing. So it's almost like having your microwave oven with the door open. It's something that's a little bit questionable whether they can actually do it or not.
Yeah. So one of the things that we pride ourselves on at NuCurrent, since we've launched so many mass production products with wireless power, we really know what it takes to get to mass production. And we also really want to help the industry and anyone thinking about product development. We want to help them cut through the BS. We want to help them know what's real, what's not. This doesn't sound real to me, Jim. I'm confident it's not. But what's going on? Xiaomi they're a great organization. They're not, they don't do things on accident. So what's going on here?
Well, I've managed R&D labs at very large companies before. One of the things we always say is you never let out the stuff you're really working on unless it's done, and unless you basically are through your certifications and it's going to the marketplace. You don't want to give your competition a heads up. Your marketing people, on the other hand, don't quite feel that way, and they like to advertise your company as leading edge. So they love to put stuff out there because it grabs headlines. So what you usually feed them is something that hasn't quite worked in the lab, but has a lot of curb appeal to it. So you let that stuff out there knowing it's not close to shipping. But again, it grabs some headlines. It gives you a little bit of brand recognition and polishes your brand as leading edge, but it's not going to quite be there that soon. And this seems to be one of those kind of announcements.
Got it. So I'll walk the tightrope with Xiaomi here. I'll say Xiaomi is a very innovative company and they have some really exciting products. On the other hand, the smoke signal they threw up on this other one's probably not one of them. So that's how I would assess the line they're walking. And what you just told me about how large companies, try to satisfy that cutting edge appeal while at the same time keeping their really good innovation to themselves until it's actually ready for market makes a ton of sense. And it helps me understand why a company as strong as Xiaomi would take this step back.
Sure.